Welcome back. A sprint pole for Kimi Antonelli. Let's get some reaction from Toto Wolff.
Toto, we'll catch up with you more later, but wow, he's never driven here.
Never driven. This young man hopefully will make us lots of fun in the future, lots of happiness.
You only score your first pole. I know it's only sprint pole, but let's not devalue it. You only do the first time once, don't you?
Yeah, exactly, and it's about the trajectory. It's not whether it's a pole in only the sprint race or a pole tomorrow or in the future. He's done it. He's been quickest.
We'll let you go back into the team. We'll catch up with you later. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. What a story.
Oh my God. I mean, we saw him coming out of the garage area and walking by, and he was just so calm, just pushing his little razor going like, oh, where do I go now? Just, wow, what composure out of an 18-year-old. I wouldn't have been like that.
Yeah, it's lovely to see. You know, all year long he's been fast. He's been just behind George. And I didn't expect that here. That was unbelievable. To put it on pole position for the sprint race, whew, that's a special moment in his time.
Of course, it's a massively special moment for him. But what is it that you see in his driving? Has he got a bit of everything? G first.
Well, it's funny actually, because we saw him last year. We saw him with the incident in Monza, and that's what I thought of Kimi Antonelli. Unbelievably quick, but obviously on the edge the whole time. And then he comes to this 2025 season and he's completely different to that driver I thought he was. He's calm, he's collected, just going about his business, slowly progressing, always there as well, getting points in every race. I mean, that's just not what you do as a new driver. You make mistakes, and maybe he has, but you haven't really seen them. So it's the consistency that's blown my mind with him, and he's just gone boom and given us the speed as well.
That's what I remember too, is the accidents last year and thinking, oh wow, is he going to be a little over his head? Is this going to be his style to be overly aggressive and make a lot of mistakes? And you honestly couldn't even fault him for that, being so young and new, but this year's been a totally different story and highly impressive, and I'm sure everybody at Mercedes is like, whew.
Apart from George Russell, who we're going to hear from
you know,
right
but
now.
they push each other,
Yeah,
which
do,
isn't
yeah.
a bad thing either.
Yeah, exactly. Here he is.
George, you've looked quick all day, and you went out obviously really early in that session. Just talk me through, firstly, the kind of the theory behind that and how happy you were with your lap.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, massive congrats to Kimi. Really pleased to see. He did an amazing job. He's been really quick all day, really impressive. I've been struggling a little bit today, a little bit off the pace, not being so comfortable, and we just wanted to go on the early side because ultimately I didn't quite have that confidence, and we thought maybe if there's a yellow or a red at the end of a session, it will come our way. But yeah, P5 today, not great, more to improve, but amazing for Kimi and the team.
Any kind of reasons or early signs why you're struggling for that confidence at the minute?
I mean, these sprint race weekends are challenging. If you get in the groove early, you can just build from there, and just all day today, just haven't quite felt it in the car, especially the tyres sliding around a bit, but as I said, it's a sprint race today. Obviously disappointed not to be further up the grid, but really happy for Kimi.
Okay, so best of luck for the weekend.
Oh, good on him. Look, he's taking it in his stride, but that is because he's been driving so well, as you say. I mean, probably the most consistent aside from Oscar Piastri and Max, right in the top three, you'd think, in the way that they're performing with the car that they've got. But it's such fine margins here, isn't it, Jensen? With the temperatures that we have, if you push too hard early in the lap, it could be as simple as that. He said a question of confidence, but these tyres are just on such a fine edge, aren't they?
Yeah, just taking it back to George a little bit, he didn't seem happy from the first lap of practice. He was complaining the steering felt heavy, the car didn't feel like what he was used to. So he's already on the back foot mentally at that point, and then his teammate goes and does that. But the margins are so small, and it's so nice to see that, you know, Kimi got pole position by half a tenth, and then it was another half a tenth. It's so close at the top, and it's whether you just you minimize the mistakes and you get as close as you can to that perfect lap, and that's what gives these guys even more adrenaline when they do clinch that pole, because it's so close out there.
And as he said, these weekends you have to unload and be good right off the bat, because you just don't get a lot of time. I mean, even in the one practice session that they got, they go from having to do race runs to then a qualifying run, which got cut off in and of itself because of the accident at the end. So there's just such little time that there's so much reliant on being good right away, which is what George said. Kimi was good from the get-go.
Okay, we're hoping we're going to be able to walk back with Kimi Antonelli. He's just having in the pen for the moment, but in the meantime, let's hear from the McLaren drivers.
Oscar, super close out there, half a tenth in it at the end. How are you feeling about that one?
Reasonably happy. I mean,
wasn't the best lap ever. Had a lock up into the last corner, which I think was probably where pole went away. But no, P2 is still a good result. We can still fight from there in the sprint tomorrow. So all in all, pretty happy. Yeah, touch on it there. I feel like you're very much in the mix tomorrow, going into that sprint, and then still main qualifying and the Grand Prix itself to come, of course. Yeah, definitely. I think we've got a bit more pace to unlock, hopefully. So yeah, feeling positive still, and try and make up a spot tomorrow in the sprint before we get stuck into where the big points are. Thanks, Oscar. Thanks. Good luck. Lando, P3 looks super close out there. How are you feeling about that session and result?
Good, close qualifying, but felt good. Happy just to get a good lap in there, and yeah, it was close, so not much more I could ask for.
And what about tomorrow? Looking forward to the sprint and just general feeling this weekend, and nice to be back in Miami where you got that first win last year.
Of course, a lot of good memories here, but at the same time you forget about it. Doesn't matter, it's in the past, and concentrating on this weekend and today's performance, which was I think in a good ballpark. Obviously not good enough, but shows how close it is, shows how quick the Mercedes are, and both of us behind. So a bit of a job to do for the sprint race tomorrow, but close enough that we can still try and aim for a pole tomorrow.
Thanks, Lando.
Thanks, sir.
Here is the man himself, Kimi. Your adoring fans, if I could just... Thank you. Thank you. There you go. That's what happens when you put it on pole position. Wow.
I did not see that coming, to be honest. No. I felt the lap was good, and I was happy with it, with how it came together. There were still a few bits where I could have done a bit better, but still super happy with how I put all the sectors together. And yeah, now I will enjoy this moment a little bit more, but at the same time I'm gonna try to focus on tomorrow, because it will be good to repeat ourselves.
Yeah.
You've had such a good start to the year. I don't know if you expected a pole this soon, but are you now gonna expect that win soon?
Yeah, that's a big target. I mean, we know the McLarens and Ferrari, also Red Bull, their race pace is really strong, but I think we're pretty close all together. So it's going to be important tomorrow to have a good start, and then trying to set a good pace without lagging too much. And then, then in qualifying, trying to do an even better lap.
Kimi, congratulations. I'm sure the emotions are very high right now. And it's been an amazing year for you. For us watching you, it's been the steady progress that you've been making, and the consistency has been awesome. Yeah. But this chunk that you've been able to improve this race in qualifying, bang. Where's that come from?
Well, it's coming, a lot. Every weekend I'm learning massively, and I think the last week having a break really helped me to gather all the informations and process them all, and also recharging a little bit the batteries, and it was really good. I mean, the whole qualifying, I felt I was able to make a step lap by lap, and especially, also I'm much more aware of, how to do a consistent warm-up, how to extract more of the tire. But of course, there's still a lot to improve, but we're on the good way.
You've never driven this. You've never driven this track before, and then we saw your dad at the end. He was hugging anyone within sight. Must be a nice moment for the family, this too. I should imagine they'll enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really nice moment to share all together. I mean, my dad it's been coming since the start of the season, and he's like a rock for me, because I can always rely on him, and it's really nice to share this moment with him.
I mean, it's such an impressive job. What do you think have you gotten on with the car really well? Do you feel like you have a grip on working with the engineers in the car, or do you still feel like there's room for improvement there?
For sure, there's always there's always room for improvement, but every weekend I'm more confident with the car. I am able to play with the car more and explore more the limit, but at the same time, understanding much better the setup of the car. So much, I can give a much better feedback, much more detail, and that's allowed the team as well to improve the car during the weekend.
Thanks, Kimi. Lucky in pink, eh? Did well today. Brilliant.
Yeah,
Love
thank
it.
you.
Thanks so much. I'll take that one. And in the meantime, let's hear from Max Verstappen.
Hey Max, well firstly congratulations on the news. Obviously taking it into sprint qualifying, you've had a really rushed kind of approach coming into today? How pleased are you to have still got a lap in and a decent performance to get P4 on the grid today?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we also did in Q3 was good. The tires are holding on quite well, but fortunately, already from FP1, yeah, just struggling with a lot of understeer in the car, and you know, around here with all these low-speed corners, you just lose quite a bit of lap time. I think you can see in the first sector we're quite competitive because that's where a few high-speed corners are. But as soon as you get to the low speed, we just lack quite a bit of grip. But yeah, P4 is all right. I mean, it's of course not where I want to be, but you also need to be realistic with the limitations that we have at the moment. And I think it was still quite close.
Have you kind of seen enough to kind of believe that you're going to be in the mix for the sprint and actually can fight with the cars around you?
Honestly, it's always very difficult to say in a sprint weekend because there's no real proper data in long runs because you don't know what others are doing with fuel loads and stuff. But just going off my own feeling with how I also felt just balance-wise with the car, I think it will be tough with the heat. And we know, like I said, we know our limitations, so we just need to try and make the best of it.
Great stuff. Well, best of luck tomorrow, Max. Thank you.
Christian Horner over the last few weeks has been at pains to point out that the correlation between their old simulator and the track has not been working. There are a few people that have doubted whether that's just, you know, an excuse. But what they have been talking about is saying that they've been using the data at the track to build themselves into weekends. Now, when you get to a sprint weekend like this, less opportunity to do that. Are we able to read anything into that?
Yeah, that's why they have all these simulators, because testing is so limited. And you can see the difference with the teams that have arrived and they're ready immediately, and other teams take a bit more time to get into a rhythm. It's the same for drivers as well. Whether they had simulator time or not, you can see the difference. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear Max talk, because a guy that's such a winner, and we're just used to winning and seeing him winning qualifying in the race, he's very calm. You know, he's very calm in the position he is in. He knows he's doing the best job he can. I don't know how long that's going to last with him being calm, with qualifying 4th, 5th, here and there, but he still thinks he's got a chance, which is exciting for us tomorrow in the sprint.
The thing with Red Bull, Danica, and with Max, specifically on Max's side of the garage, is that he does spend these practice sessions, when he's got 3 practice sessions, absolutely optimising the setup. The first time we really see the true pace of Max Verstappen, because he knows how to get through Q1 and Q2, is in his final lap in Q3. That seems to be the rhythm of his weekend. It's totally different here.
Well, they usually do make a lot of progress throughout the weekend, of course. But let's not forget, this was kind of Red Bull's fall from grace finally last year when McLaren with Lando got his first win here, and he just really wasn't up to speed. So, you know, this just might not be a track that is well suited for them, and they just don't quite have what they need compared to the other cars. This just isn't for them. But there will be places this year that Red Bull will go where they'll stand out.
There's another thing we can't forget. You know, when you look at McLaren, you look at Mercedes, they've got 2 drivers that are always on it. So there's useful information coming back from both cars. Max hasn't had that for years, really, a couple of years. So, you know, whether he trusts Tsunoda-san, I don't know. It's a difficult one. So that's going to hurt him going into a sprint qualifying.
Well, Yuki Tsunoda didn't get that lap and didn't get out of SQ1. Let's hear from the Ferrari drivers.
Lewis, P7 at the end of that one. How was that session for you? How was the car feeling out there?
I thought it was a better session. P1 was probably a bit better. The car was a bit nicer to drive in P1, but yeah, we're just lacking speed. But I'm you know, just keep working on from there.
Feel like you can fight tomorrow in the sprint, maybe make up a bit of ground from where you are?
Not really. I think all the cars ahead are faster, so yeah, I don't know what else to say.
We've got the main qualifying session and Grand Prix coming up, of course, a chance to reset in the middle of that. So do you have some ideas of what you could maybe do differently with the car?
There's always ideas, whether or not they're going to be right or not, but there's definitely learnings to take from today, setup changes we made and how the car behaved, and there's definitely work to do to pick up speed going into the rest of the weekend.
Okay, thanks, Lewis.
Cheers.
Michelle, P6 at the end of that, looked quite tight out there. How are you feeling about that result?
Bad. The lap was good, but the pace is just not at all there for now. So it's a bit annoying, but it's the way it is for now. I'll try my best tomorrow to try and do something special with the start. But to be honest, there's not much room for improvement today. It was just that's the pace of the car.
Do you know where the big losses are at the moment? Do you have, you know, a good idea going into tomorrow? You've got the sprint, but then you can reset for the main qualifying session.
it's every corners really, so it's not like we are particularly weak in one type of corner. Yes, the slow speed seems to be a little bit more of our weakness, but it changes from one weekend to the other, so it's just not great.
Well, I was going to say that Lewis sounded down in the dumps again until you hear Charles, and he's just as down in the dumps. So it's not performing for them this weekend.
It's confusing. I'm sure they're confused, but you go a couple of years ago and they were incredibly fast and great at qualifying, but struggled in the race. Last year, it seemed that kind of flipped its head. They worked on the race car and got much better about tire degradation and being able to have a good race car. And then you just kind of thought maybe this would be the year that they put all of it together and sort of find the balance. And unfortunately, it seems like they've kind of completely lost the balance. As Charles said, it's not good anywhere.
Can't run it low enough for what they want to do, can they? Particularly in high fuel. So that's where the encouragement would have come from in sprint and in qualifying, but not to be the case.
Because you can run it lower in the sprint qualifying. Yeah, I mean, this is why this year's really exciting, I think, because he's massively disappointed. He's starting P6 for the sprint tomorrow, and he's 3/10 off pole position. Yeah. It's tiny margins. This is a car that won the last sprint race we had. So I understand his disappointment, but it is just about that fine-tuning of the car over a weekend, and maybe they'll be able to sort it out better for real qualifying, not real qualifying, for qualifying for the race. But it's more tricky for them because they can't lower the car as much because in the race, full fuel tanks.
That's the closest, though, that Lewis has been to Charles Leclerc in the last 3 qualifying sessions, so maybe something for him to cling on to, even though it is
done. Kimi Antonelli, well, there's a warning shot for the rest of the drivers on the grid. He's going to be around for quite some time.
He is, Anthony. I just come back to you, obviously, in your role as Mercedes sim driver. Everyone, like from a neutral's perspective, as fans, everyone is thrilled, super excited about Kimi. What's the feeling with the engineers back at the factory and about the way he works in the simulator, around the team, etc., etc.?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously everybody in the team were excited in Kimi's potential, and I think it shows that the team really knows what they're looking at for future drivers. Remember, George Russell is a product of their young driver program as well. So obviously a keen eye for that young talent coming through. Kimi is here now, and it was a difficult process to go through. Who would fill that seat after the legend of Lewis Hamilton had been with the team for so long? So, but the team really I feel like they're really nurturing to him. That's the most important thing. And he's in the spotlight in a big team right at the sharp end, and that's not easy. So you need a lot of support from the team, a lot of comfort from the team. Yes, he had the moment in Monza, and I think that was good in many ways because it showed what could happen if you're left to your own devices. And I think the team reacted really well after that one and have nurtured him through since then. And he's taken a different approach. I sat down with him yesterday. He said he'd done 70 laps in the sim before coming here. Only 70 laps, a little bit more than race distance. Drivers can easily do multiple days of the same track when it's a new track, but obviously we don't have that much time anymore in Formula One. So, yeah, he's clearly done his homework there. He's keen to work, and, yeah, these are the fruits of his labour.
Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, it is the first time in the history of Mercedes F1 since they came back into the sport that they've had 2 from the young driver program in the 2 senior seats. That's the charge of Gwen Legrouze, the head of the young driver development program within Mercedes. And every time, in every single category that Mercedes, or he has placed a driver, he has a winner, and that is aside from Formula One. And you wonder how long that's going to be with Kimi Antonelli and George Russell, if George is to remain. But remember, his contract is up at the end of the year. That's his father. Lovely moment with Bono.
Before you do anything else,
It's only sprint board, okay? Yeah. We celebrated now. It was all super.
But now,
now we go back to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, all good. I'm pleased for Bono too, because actually I talked to him back in Japan about Kimi and the different challenge of having arguably the greatest of all time, Lewis Hamilton, and then someone like this who's perceived as a generational talent, and Bono's saying, well, I can mould him a little bit. That's the thing. I suppose they've got hold of him from such a young age that they're able to just tweak him and manipulate him as they want as well.
Yeah, but it does take time because the engineer driver language that you have is very specific. I always speak to my engineer for example, in McLaren when I was there, in a certain way that I wouldn't with another engineer. And it does take time, so it's amazing he's got up to speed as quick as he has. I know Bono very well. We worked together for a few years. And also when I won the World Championship, he was there. So he's got the experience of working with Lewis for so many years, which is great. But yeah, learning new stuff with Kimi is not easy. But he's made it very easy, Kimi, by just being so down to earth and willing to learn. You know, you hear Toto there say, "We've had the celebrations. Now it's time to get back to it." He's like, "Yeah, okay, let's go."
Now, the other thing that Bono's saying is just how good his feedback was. And actually, when you make likenesses, it's the same for GP when Max came in. He said straight off, we knew we'd got someone special because he was able to just take everything and explain it, what he needed from the car, and they were able to take it away and turn it into an engineering problem and sort out any issues.
I mean, that's huge and critical. And look at it on a weekend like this, when you have one practice session. It shows because he went out and qualified on the pole. So your ability to be able to take the feeling that you have and translate that into effective words. And like Jensen said, there is a language between you and the engineer. Like every driver has sort of their own level of expression of like how much it's understeering or oversteering. And the engineer needs to translate that into a setup. And everybody kind of relates to that different as a driver. And also each driver tends to have a style, you know, the way that they like to drive the car, whether it's, you know, a little bit more on the front of the car, a little bit more pointy, and some drivers like it a little bit more settled in the rear. Everybody's got their own little styles, so you also have to play that into it. But what I found really impressive about watching that qualifying lap was just how smooth he was. Everything from his steering to the throttle, lifting. There was certain parts where he just had to lift just a little bit. Everything was just so smooth. Even the sound of him jumping on the brakes was not a jump. It was like a press on the brake. And that's not something that comes with experience. That's a style. So clearly that's obviously working well for him. And he's now the youngest pole sitter in history of F1.
By 2.5 years. Yes, we just made our way back into the Hard Rock Stadium, home of the Dolphins. I feel like one, if only I was 400 pounds heavier. We're just waiting to talk to Marco Antonelli, his father. Must have been a nice moment. Do you remember it when you were your dad, the first pole position that you got?
Yeah, it's a few years ago now, back in 2004. But yeah, it means a lot. And it brings back all those memories when you see him with his father. That hug, that embrace, you know, they've been through everything together. His father would have been there every step of the way. So, yeah, it's happened very quickly for him in Formula One in his career to be on the, you know, to cross that finish line in qualifying and be the quickest driver in the world in Formula One on that moment in time. But yeah, that emotion doesn't matter when it happens in your career. That first time you get a pole position, it means so much. And that's lovely to see that connection.
Did you sleep the night? I mean, were you thinking about the race all night, or how did you manage to manage that?
I had a guard in my door in my bedroom because it was in Italy. I scored my pole position, and obviously Michael Schumacher was in a Ferrari, and he was P2. No, I slept really well. I always used to sleep really well.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen your bosses. You can fall asleep anywhere. What advice would you give to Kimi at this stage of his career, when things are rushing up on him all the time, and it's easy to forget he's a teenager. It's about remaining grounded.
Yeah.
But he seems like he's the kind of character that would just take it in his stride.
That's just it. I mean, we saw his sort of like emotional arc, I feel like, after qualifying. He seemed super calm coming out of the garage, like we saw him walking very easily. And then it seemed like his energy elevated, and maybe that's where Toto came in as sort of like a supervisor of the situation, going like, okay, we need to, you know, get back to work now. But I think the best advice in these scenarios is to really just stay humble. When you stay humble, you stay grateful, and then, you know, everything just seems to work better. So, you know, I remember early on in IndyCar, it was like things were going well early, and it was like, just stay humble. Know that it doesn't always last forever. That's the thing, is that he could have jumped into this car a couple of years ago, and this would have not been the scenario off the bat. So, you know, he's coming into a situation where the car is getting much better, much more drivable. And it's just not always like that. Some years are just not very good. And it just is a really cool situation for him to be so good so early, because the car and everything is just working really well.
Now is a big part of his career, right? We're in year one, which is still, I'm in disbelief, but this is a big part of his career. Last year, he could have walked in here and not many people would have taken his picture. Now he's got everybody following down the pit lane, and that brings an added pressure. and he would have had it for the first few races. But this elevates it massively.
How many times have we seen it? Honestly, though, they come into Formula One, they have a big reputation. You're right. The moment you start taking those stepping stones, first pole, first win, etc., you're going very quickly. You're heading to superstardom, and that must be a really difficult thing to handle.
And to be judged then for everything you do, everything, whether it's in the car, out the car, and it's that mindset that's tricky. You know, you need to get it right, and having the right people around you. His father, Toto, is a big deal. So he's in a good place, and I'm really hopeful that he's. We all know he's the real deal, but it's the off-track stuff that is the more difficult thing.
And I think the fact that it's happening in his first year like this really does wonders for your reputation as a driver. Because when you come into a team and if things don't go well, look, that could be the car, it could be a lot of other things, but the finger could get pointed much easier at the driver, especially when they're the rookie, when they don't have experience. So for him to come in and be doing so well like he is and get this pole, I mean, this is a good thing for his career.
But also, one thing you do, when you talk to George, who's also come through this program, the thing that he's always at pains to point out is that when he came in, and again, alongside Lewis Hamilton, multiple world champion, the fact that they've been with that system all the way through from a junior level, okay, I think he was picked up in F3, wasn't he, George? But a little bit earlier from Kimi. They say it's a nurturing team, and people like Toto and Gwen, and back then when it was James Vowles who was looking after some of the younger drivers as well, they'll say, look, we believe in you. It's not like you're going to be jettisoned. It's not like other teams where occasionally you might get the heave-ho quite quickly, not to mention any, but it is a nurturing team.
Yeah, and it needs to be, right, for a racing driver. We're all insecure. Most sportsmen are, right? You can have 10 great days. One bad day, it's like, am I good enough? You know, that's the way it is. And you need those people around you to nurture you through the good times, the bad times. They've been through all the experiences before in the sport. So he needs to be a sponge, basically, Kimi, taking all of that on board. But no, he's obviously in a great position. And we can't take anything away from George's teammate as well. He has been faultless this year. He's been so quick. And that's what makes this even more impressive. You know, to get one up on George in sprint qualifying, I mean, that's amazing. So they have a really good lineup this year. And obviously they had an amazing lineup last year, but they've got a younger lineup now for the future.
Okay, right, we're still waiting because guess what? Our Italian colleagues are milking this for all they can, but I'm not surprised because what a moment for him and for Italy as well. Let's hear from Isaac Hadjar again inside the top 10 in a qualifying session.
Isaac, great work to get into the top 10 today. How are you feeling after that kind of performance?
Yeah, it was, again, stressful qualifying, you know. First run was really poor from us. Made a mistake in the last corner, and that puts us into pressure to get to Q2. And as Q2, I found a really good lap in, so I was really happy to get to Q3. It was incredibly tight, and then, you know, I think I made it by 1 second on the line, you know, and I started my lap 2.5 seconds behind Charles, so it was not ideal, and we knew I had to make the most out of this, and P9 is good.
Great sort of position for tomorrow to fight into the points, just one place away from them. What have you got to do to get yourself in that spot?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's quite straightforward. The car ahead is 1 point, and it's Alex, so I've got to finish ahead. And if I can't make it at the start, then it's going to be really difficult because they are super fast in the straight, and it's going to be difficult to overtake here.
Yeah, a full interview with Isaac coming up with Rachel tomorrow. We're just waiting. I think he's coming in now, fresh from a chat with Sky Italy. We're over here. Hello, Marco. Congratulations. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Congratulations.
How's that one feel? How does that feel?
The moment is difficult to say what I feel because, after 6 races, not 5, because this is the 6th race, it's very unbelievable that see that Kimi is in pole. Okay, it's a sprint race, it's a sprint quali. The weekend is very long, but we had a good start.
I would say it's a good start. congratulations. I can't imagine how it feels. I have no children, but I imagine today is a very, very special day. So well done. Obviously, being dad, you play a huge role. I'm curious if you could tell me about his style, his personality. How is he able to have such composure at 18 years old and be able to accomplish this? Tell us a little bit about young Kimi.
We are
Younger.
yeah, we are one family that I think try to transmit at his son and his daughter, because we have a daughter as well, that in the life need to work always very hard and not complain before that you understand if you did a good job or not. Focus in the future, and the day is very, very hard for everybody and for our family as well, because we are a normal family that we work every day. And so I think that nothing special, respect the other family that try to transmit at the children the best for the life. And I think that Kimi understood this, and this is the result. Apart the speed, the quality that he has on the track in the normal life. This is very big pleasure for us.
I just want you to, it's obviously sunken already, I'm sure, but qualifying is qualifying. Doesn't matter if it's sprint or it's qualifying for the main race. Everybody is out there to go as quick as they can. And your son was the quickest driver in the world at that moment in time. I mean, blows my mind. It gets me emotional thinking about it, having kids.
No, it's true. Qualifying is qualifying, but we know that today is another day. Okay, now we celebrate the qualifying, but the focus must be tomorrow.
You can still celebrate qualifying. It's okay. Your son might have to focus on tomorrow, but enjoy this moment. This is such a special time.
No, but for sure. But in Formula One, in the Formula One of 2025, need to stay always calm, and it's very difficult to perform every day at the same system that you did in the past, because now in 1 second you are on the top or in the back. And for this reason, I think that today is a very good day, but we have to think at the future, because it's the beginning of the past that Kimi had to do and then of course we have a fantastic team, fantastic person around us, and Toto is amazing, Bono is super, everybody knows Bono, and we are in very, very good position with Mercedes.
A lovely relationship, obviously, between Kimi and his sister. Where is his sister and mum at the moment? They're watching from back in Italy, or?
My wife and my daughter are in Misano, because we have a GT team and we have the first race of Italian GT Championship. And I'm here, but they are in Misano for work.
There we go. Enjoy it, honestly. It's
Thank you so
great
much.
to talk
Thank
to
you so much.
Best of luck for the race tomorrow. Thank you so much. I'll take that. But yeah, well, a lovely story. You know, in the day that Max has announced that he's to be a father, it's great to see the kind of generations together, isn't it? This is what it's all about, racing. We saw it so much with you and your dad, John.
Yeah, it's so lovely to see it. But I just wish for me, it feels like he's very professional. I mean, amazing. He's going to be a great dad for Kimi, obviously going through the experience he's going to go through. But yeah, I mean, if my dad was here, he'd be just crying his eyes out, rolling around on the floor, laughing and joking. And Formula One's definitely changed in that way. We have to enjoy these moments, though.
Yeah.
Every driver has to, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So yeah, I understand Toto's view of let's focus again, but you got to enjoy these moments. Really do.
You know, I kept standing there thinking to myself that he, like you said, he's very composed and very professional, which obviously is going to, transfer to his son and the kind of composure that he has. But I kept thinking, I wonder what he's told him throughout his life. Like I was thinking about, what did my dad tell me when I was young, or actually my entire career from go-karting on? And every single time before I'd go out, he'd say, have fun every single time. And I wonder what sort of repetitive important statements have been said over and over again to Kimi. Obviously not for too long. He's only 18, but he has a good head on his shoulders.
It's a lovely story to end the day here. And another a surprising result, you might think. It certainly surprised Kimi Antonelli. And I wonder what surprises tomorrow will bring. We are on, it's a surprise for you. We're on all day. We'll start with F1 Academy qualifying, and we won't leave you till the end of Ted's qualifying notebook. But there we go. One man today. He's the story. Kimi Antonelli, the absolute beauty.